Welcome back everybody. It's the day after Thanksgiving. Not working on regular stuff today, so I thought I would get started, or continue I should say, on the engine stand for the 6.3 and the transmission. So if you've been following me, as you know that I intend to make an engine stand just to make sure that everything's running correctly out of the car, you know, oil pressure, temperature, any oil leaks, and everything's running not just for a few seconds, but hopefully run it for about 30 minutes, an hour or so, to make sure everything checks out. Last thing I want to do is have all the engine bay and everything painted up, and as you know, those people that know about the 6.3, how tight it is to get into that engine bay. Imagine loading it all in there, wiring everything up, putting it all together, and you've got a major problem and you have to pull the motor again. So while it's out, you know, it makes sense to me to make an engine test stand. Plus, make it a stand, it doesn't have to be just for this motor, it could be for motors in the future. I don't know what I'm going to get up to in the future. So yeah, let me show you what I've got so far made up. You haven't really missed anything big deal. I just thought I'd show you from this point on. So let's show you what I've done. So first things first, I've got the engine here, the transmission, and my main criteria, or one of the criteria I should say, is to be able to clear these legs. Now these legs on this stand are about just under 8 inches to the height of them, right? So any engine stand that needed to slip under so that I can bring it over and lower this engine and transmission onto the stand. And from my understanding, this weighs in the region of 800 to 900 pounds, I believe. I may be wrong by a little bit there, but it's a good substantial unit, as you can see. So my buddy gave me this frame. Now it didn't look exactly like this. It had parts sticking out the front here, metal here and there. I don't know what it was used for before, but with a little modification I was able to, or I am going to be able to, use it as a engine stand. So all I've done so far, these two uprights were there already. I just welded that 1/4 inch plate there, put some reinforcement here and here. So we'll drill a center hole there for the rear transmission, okay, of the transmission. And I welded on some legs and some plates onto the ends, and that's 1/4 inch plate. Those are 350 pound rated castors. They fully swivel all the way around and lock. That bar there on both ends was already there. Excuse me. But I'm going to leave that there because, see, it's both sides here. It's got a locking nut already built into it. And what I can do is put a tube of steel here, a tube of steel there, have it come up and across like that, and I can have my control panel, you know, with all the gauges and what have you. And then at the end here, what I'll do is a tube of steel and then some angle iron or something. I can mount my radiator here for the cooling. What we've got to do now is figure out the location. Well, obviously that's bolting on for the transmission. The location of this bar for the uprights for the main engine mounts. I'm going to use the old engine mounts that came off of the car. And kind of reverse back in. So we'll set the engine on here on the crane, held up with blocks of wood or whatever, make sure it's in the position, mount the engine mounts and build backwards to get our angle correct. I want to make it fully adjustable, so the uprights move this way and that, and this bar moves this way as well, so it can be used for other engines. And that is that. It's called Thor. My good friend Simon sent me that license plate because I've nicknamed the 6.3 Thor. So when the car's done, that's going to get mounted on the front of the car. So for the moment, this is Thor. Right, so let's get to it. Okay, drilled a transmission hole at the back there. Cut up some 1/4 inch plate. I've got a chop saw. It's a little easier than a little angle grinder. You can use an angle grinder, of course, but just chopping it, you get a nice clean cut. I'm just going to clean these edges up and then drill holes through for the mounting of the engine mount, and then we'll bring the engine over, lower it onto the cradle and set it in position, mount these up, and then we can kind of get our idea of where those bars are coming down. Just want to clean them up. Cleaned this one up earlier here. I like to use these. This isn't Cubitron. These are like Cubitron type sanding discs. This is a little worn out. This one actually. I'll change that one out. And these I've run out of the 36 grit ones. The best ones for this kind of thing are the 36 grit. They really clean up the metal ready for welding really nicely. I keep heard the Cubitron discs are the best. I think that's 3M. I'll give those a whirl. So I've kind of got now dedicated grinders. You know, I've got this one for grinding up like that. I've got another one as a cutting one, and then I've got another one with just a regular grinding wheel. You could even have another one for one of those strip discs as well. Just makes it quicker, easier, just to change grinders, because they ain't that expensive, I think. So we'll get this cleaned up. Alright, so we'll take that, we'll drill through the holes there, like to clamp it in place so we get the right position. Amazing really, these engine mounts, 50 years old. Obviously I've replaced them, but I mean, for 50 years, I'm assuming they're 50 years, because a lot of the times these blooming things get ignored, don't they? But still, that's an old mount, but still not bad really. I've seen a lot worse. The ones I replaced on my six cylinder by Merle, I think, I mean, I only last 3 or 4 years, and those things are starting to give out. So I'm certainly not, it's definitely right, try and get the Mercedes ones, they just last you. So let's get this in a vise and we'll drill through. That's all bolted on there. Now we've got a nice big space here to put our square tube here and weld that to that. So let me get the other one done and we'll get back to you. Okay, now that they're welded on, yes, I'm a Wally. I made a ridiculous rookie mistake. As you saw me welding these on, there was a little voice in me saying, John, you should take those engine mounts off, right? Oh, they'll be fine, right? So, these, granted, are the old engine mounts, and I am obviously replacing them with brand new ones, but so this was a 50-year-old engine mount and it just completely disintegrated. That is completely my fault, I just wasn't thinking. Just shows you, you know, there's an awful lot of heat in the welding, so it right from up here transferred through and just destroyed the old engine mount, which is a shame because I would have liked to use these just for the stand and it would have made it easier on the rebuild. I can still use these mounts to get, you know, because there's airlines and various things for the suspension that needs lining up, and these mounts come into play because of the undermount there. But I can still use these while the brand spanking new mounts are on the engine stand. I feel like such a plonker. So I'm sure some of you, John, take the engine mounts off. But anyway, never mind, it's not the end of the world. So these are going to be treated with kid gloves because these are not cheap, these things. So they will mount back onto there, and we've just got to get that line cut on the bottom, and let's mount these new mounts up and then we'll see what we got. Right, you see the stanchions, or whatever you want to call them, the standoffs sitting there, and now what we can do is just draw a line across to get our angle, and then there'll be a mount plate. I'm going to do that minus 1/4 inch, so I'll cut that minus 1/4 inch for the mount plate, and then we'll figure where the slots on this bar will be to make it fully adjustable, get it all bolted in now, right, and then we can do our brackets on this piece to make it adjustable this way. So let's mark that off. Like I say, minus 1/4 inch up for the mount plate. Right, here's the lower mount plate. Make it long. We have 2 bolts going through the C channel So this has got to be welded on just like that, and what I'll probably do is just hold that and tack that in position. Now I've got both stanchions welded up, done both of these now. Basically, now we've got to be able to attach the square tube and make it adjustable. So I've got these brackets, I've drilled a hole right through there because I'm going to weld a nut on here and use a bolt. That will go through there, and I'll show you in the next shot how we're going to make them adjustable, basically, so the bar can move up and down and then they can be fixed in a position. So let me weld that nut on and then you'll see what I'm doing. Okay, so as you can see, I've welded the nut on here with the hole through, and I've marked the correct position to center this bar on the frame. I'm going to weld that guy on there, weld that all around, and then what that'll give us, you see, this bolt can go through, and I might put a kind of more of a point on this end. So I can crank this and it will lock itself onto the frame, and then it can be moved back and forth, and that should work. So this is a nice heavy bracket I had lying around. I don't know where they were from, but let's get that guy tacked onto there and weld it on. Right, that one's clamped in place, you see. I left a little gap here just so it's easier to mount, and then obviously the bolts will take up the rest. So let me get that welded on. So now I've got those bolted in. I'm going to sharpen the ends of those bolts so it kind of stabs into the metal, because they have a tendency to, as you do them up, rise it up, but that was without any weight on. Once the weight of all this is pressing down, I think it'll work fine. So what I've done now is made my marks where I'm going to cut the slot. I'm going to cut the slot here for the bolts to go through, and then the backing plate from 2.5 to 13. And the reason I'm going this far out is that I've got to kind of be able to hold that plate in now. I might have to come even out further to be able to start it, you know, slide it on, then put the secondary bolt in. So we'll see how we go. Right, so I marked the slot out to accommodate the bolts that will go through the plate and then slide up and down here, you see. Right, I cut the slot, I'll show you that in a minute, but I've got these plates 1/4 inch. I'm going to cut these in half, and these will go into the channel, and then I'll just weld some receiving nuts, and then I can bolt through to them. They won't spin because they're square, so I'm going to clean these up and weld some nuts to them. So I've welded those nuts on. I can cut that in half, and then that will be my receiving nuts that go inside the channel. I'll get the other one done, and then I'll be able to mount it onto the frame. Yeah. Right. I just cut those in half, and so we've got little receiving nuts that will go inside the channel. Just soften the edges a little bit. So let's go and bolt that on. Right. So we'll get this guy in there roughly. Roughly centered on the thingies there. Let's see now. So hopefully I have enough room to be able to pass these. Yeah, I should be able to do that. So, got one in at a time, you see. Yeah, I'll get a wrench on that now. Oh. And that can go there. Get the wrench on there, do this guy up. I can get this nipped up because then I'm going to allow the weight of the engine to tell me where this settles essentially. Then I'll bolt these in last because it's a little higher than what I want it. So you can see it will drop. So that's that. Those are loose. I'll go and do the other side. What I'm going to do is jack it slightly, lift it up off of the wood. Take these guys out of the way. And then when I lower it, then it can self-center itself, you see, with the with those plates, and then the weight of it pushing down onto the frame. See, now that's fully on the frame now. Crane is not doing anything, and now what I can do is tighten those side bolts up to anchor it. So that's pretty sturdy. And what they were doing before, they were having a tendency to raise the bar up, but because of all that weight on there now, that won't happen. I can just nip those up. That's locked in. I've already done the rear transmission one up. That's it. So, yeah, couldn't be easier really. Just give you a little overview here. Yeah, that is a beast of a motor, that. A bit frightening really, the size of it. I mean, really, obviously by today's standards, not that higher horsepower, but a lot of torque. I think 450, is it, Newton meters or something? I don't know, but it gives me lovely access. Nice place to put my starter motor there. I can, once the manifold's on, I can refine the. I wanted to put a heat shield on that starter motor to protect it, you know, because the connections on this were broken when I took it off. Let's turn this a minute. So yeah, as I say, the nice little shield probably coming out to about here on a nice curve to follow the side of the motor here. This gives me access to service the transmission, do a bunch of cleaning, get up here, get the valves adjusted before I do. I'm going to, probably next step is to do a valve adjustment, and we'll just do a compression test, crank it over and see what we've got on all cylinders. This is a high compression 6.3, so don't really remember exactly what the compressions are supposed to be. If someone can let me know. I know they're supposed to be in 10% of each other from my understanding, but what are they supposed to be, which is a good compression, you know. Easy access to my cold start valve. From memory, the documentation they do have on this car did report that there was some leaking on the cold start valve, or valves themselves. So anyway, so yeah, I'll have to get a battery tray, a fuel cell, control panel welded in here, and then the radiator mount. That's all pretty straightforward stuff that I'll show you in upcoming videos. Okay, well, thanks for watching, everybody. Hope you enjoyed that. It was kind of a fun project. Still not over yet. Still got to do all the rest of it. Figure out the best locations for tank, battery, all that stuff. Thanks again. I'll see you in the next one. Please hit like, share, subscribe, and take care of yourselves. Bye-bye.